Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Lauren.
I am Ken.
And this is Paradise After Dark.
Dark. Paradise After Dark is a bi-weekly podcast covering true crime,
Unsolved mysteries,
missing people,
urban legends, and the dark side of the Sunshine State.
But first, if you'd like to support the show, please subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast.
On Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, our spin-off show Vacation Edition, discounts on our merchandise, and more. If you have a question, a Florida case suggestion, or you'd just like to chat, please email us at paradiseafterdarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, this case here that we're going to put to read tonight is actually one of our Vacation Edition that we're talking about.
It's actually our very first Vacation Edition that we ever did.
Yep, it was
July of last year.
Yeah, July of last year.
Yep. And we're putting it out for you here just to give you a little taste of the things that you will get if you were to subscribe to our Patreon page.
Plus, we have a few of the Vacation Edition, and
we have a lot of Vacation Editions,
and then we have a ton of off topics.
Yes,
and I think there's one of those where maybe I sing a song.
There is.
Lauren left me alone one night, and I got to singing. It was a good time. So,
I was out of town.
She was out of town, and I got broke into the studio. Actually, I'm lying. I found the key. So, but we're going to go ahead and present that to you tonight, I think.
Yep. Here you go. And again, if you like what you hear, feel free to subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast.
And thank you all for listening
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Vacation Edition.
Ooh.
If you are listening, that means you are a Patreon subscriber.
And you are wonderful, and we thank you. So tonight we are, like we said, on Vacation Edition.
This is our very first Vacation Edition episode.
Yep. The real legit one.
I have to give credit where credit is due. Ken researched, wrote, and will be directing this whole episode.
I will?
Yes, you will.
She didn't tell me this shit. I'm totally unprepared for this because I'm not really good at this, but it's all good. Well,
that's why we're doing it. We're testing it out on our Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's all my fault if it sucks. Oh, shit.
So, Ken,
we were talking about doing the Vacation Edition, and so, of course, I thought, I got to get something together. We put the trailer together, which I thought came out pretty good.
He did that all by himself as well.
I literally became an audio engineer in the last couple of weeks. Song is coming. It's recorded. It's laid down. I just got to edit a few things. It's ready to go for those that are concerned about my song.
And if anybody is curious about Vacation Edition, I'm literally recording with my feet up on the desk with a beer, pretending I'm on vacation.
Yeah, this is really nice. Well,
normally I'm very serious, but I don't feel like this is I feel like this is your show. I'm just appearing on it.
Just this episode. I can't do this show all the time. Just this episode. Because
but I got to do it all the time.
Well, exactly. Yeah, of course. But
go on.
Well, anyway, so we talked about doing the Vacation Edition, and Lauren had a few things in mind of what she wanted to do. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick some places that maybe that I would like to go to and try or just check out. So I looked into it and I found a nice little place in Panama and found out that in this particular area of Panama, there was a serial killer.
Did you hear that thunder? I wonder if our thing picked it up.
Could. Yeah.
That adds like a totally unscripted, creepy effect.
Well, it would basically simulate every vacation we've taken.
That's true.
Remember our trip to Miami?
Yeah.
Oh my God, folks!
A tropical storm decided to roll through. We just went to New Orleans and we were under tornado warnings the first day we were there.
Still nice though. But I tell you one thing that I really remember about the Miami trip. We got there, and of course, we got there later in the day, so we kind of got checked in.
That whole trip was a shit show.
It was an absolute shit show. We took off. I think we went for a walk on the beach, and maybe we went down to the beach for a little bit, but then a storm rolled in. We had to haul ass. The pool at this place, I mean, we're literally, you can stand in the pool and throw a rock onto the beach. But for some reason, everybody was packed in there, and the pool area stunk.
Yeah,
really
it was
bad.
Dirty.
So it got really nasty, and the rain came up. It's on Collins Avenue, so Collins Avenue is really, for anyone that's...
It was South Beach.
Well, yeah, exactly. But you're on Collins Avenue. Which was it Collins Avenue? Yeah, Collins Avenue.
I don't remember.
Which is packed full of old hotels and things like that.
I just remember we left early.
We got a flood.
Because the hotel flooded.
The lobby flooded. The doors opened and water was running out of the lobby,
we were
down
on
the steps in the front.
And the elevators weren't running, and it was such a shit show. We wanted to leave early, so we had to lug all of our luggage and the dog down 5 flights of stairs, and then haul ass to the car and get the hell home.
First world problems.
I know, right?
So
now I'm going to Canada in like 3 weeks, and now I'm afraid we're going to get like a snowstorm or something in August. I'm going to eat some poutine. Ooh.
Some what?
I can't wait.
You're going to eat some what?
Some poutine.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
Can't wait. Be such a fat kid.
Okay, speaking of Canada, let's go south.
Let's go south. You tell us, where are we going tonight?
We are headed to Panama.
Panama. Where is Panama?
Panama, it's outside of the United States.
I know. Is it?
It's Central America. Remember the Panama Canal? It's down there by...
I know where it is, but some of our listeners might not know. So can you just say Central
It's down
America?
there just a little north of South America. Central America.
Okay.
It's like the last little thing where the Panama Canal is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where it's at.
Okay.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that our listeners are not like kindergartners. I'd hope not. And that they have a knowledge base of geography.
It's listed as explicit, so...
Yeah, exactly. I hope no one's listening to that. Anyway, so welcome to our very first vacation edition. If it sucks...
Sorry for rambling. We're going to get into
You can criticize me, but you know what?
Now.
I really
Ken is still rambling.
Really happy to do this. So, okay, so let's begin tonight with a trip down to Panama. And we're going to talk about a lady named Sherilyn Hughes. She was known by her friends as Cher, and she was originally a native of St. Louis, Missouri. And to reflect back to Florida, she did move to Florida in the Gulfport area, and that's kind of near St. Petersburg, where she purchased a sign shop with someone else, and she was a co-owner in a sign company. Like most people that move to Florida, once she was here, she was kind of drawn to the water and began developing a love for sailing. So, usually when you get here, it's the beach or there's certain aspects of things, and she just picked up sailing. So she began traveling and spending quite a bit of time down in Panama because it was one of her favorite places to sail to, which is actually not too far. I mean, it's a good go, but you can still get there by boat. But she fell in love with the beautiful area of Bocas del Toro. It is the essence and the mirror of the Caribbean, Panama. And Bocas del Toro is an island chain off of the Caribbean coast. It's located in the extreme western part of Panama. It's about 40 kilometers from the Costa Rican border. And this is a group of islands, and it has a perfect combination of nature, historical, and cultural traditions with a charming variety of aquatic species, coral reefs, mangroves, tropical forests. Tropical forests are beautiful. Beaches with crystal clear water and undisturbed jungles with basically all the flora and fauna you can imagine. And that's taken right off of their brochure. So, but Isla Colón, the main island, is the home to the capital, Bocas Town, a central hub with plenty of diverse restaurants, shops, and an upbeat nightlife. Now, also on Isla Colón is Starfish Beach, and it's named for the numerous sea stars on its ocean floor, because it's apparently everything I've seen and some of the pictures, it's amazing. There's freaking starfish everywhere.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's like they all washed up right here in this
It'd be
particular
cool,
place.
but it'd be like weird and creepy because I wouldn't want to like step on them.
If you ever been to the beach and stepped on a starfish?
Yes, I have. It's weird. They like feel weird under your feet.
It's creepy, but I've seen them where there's so many
like
on the
wiggle.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And you pick them up. And I've seen kids put them on their head and stuff.
Yeah.
So, it says in their brochure, the beaches are bathed by waters of the Admiral Bay, the Cherokee Lagoon, and the open sea. And tourists can arrive here from all over to relax in its beauty and enjoy surfing, snorkeling, bird watching, forest trekking, or just taking in the sights. So I kind of want to go at some point because reading all this and checking this out, it was freaking everything about this particular part of Panama is just gorgeous. Now, Cheryl Hughes, we were talking about, she loved it so much, she eventually decided that she was just going to move there. So she sold her sign shop and basically packed everything up she could take and hauled ass to Panama.
Cheryl was popular with everyone in the area of Bocas del Toro, getting along with expats, tourists, local residents, and especially loved by the children.
Yeah, she was known there to hand out lollipops, host these kids' movie nights where she invited people over. And she would serve popcorn to the kids, which kind of made her really popular. So, and some people have said that she helped out with Bocas Beso charity organization, which delivered books to schools on her island and really cared about the children in the area, according to Don Winter, a journalist for Panama Guide.
Now, in 2005, Cheryl married Keith Worley. Cheryl and Keith found a private island located in a remote area about 45 minutes by boat from the nearest town. This is where Cheryl's dream home would be located. Keith Worley said, Cheryl was unbelievably happy in our piece of paradise. We both got to that little island and said, yeah, we could die here. This is where we would spend the rest of our days. Other residents of Cheryl's home were Feldman, a small mixed breed dog, Jackie, a Doberman pinscher, and a white-faced monkey.
And Feldman was said, the Feldman that was a little dog that was kind of went everywhere with her. That was sort of her emotional support animal.
I have one of those.
He went everywhere.
Her name's Isabel.
So now, Cheryl eventually started acquiring a lot of property and businesses in the area. She became the owner and operator of 2 different hotels located in Isla Coronero, and one was the Casa del Sapo. That was the bigger one. She also owned a warehouse on Isla Mono and another building on a neighboring island. She had 2 different houses and a Panamanian corporation called Southern Exposure Incorporated, which you have to have a corporation if you want to start buying properties in Panama. We'll get to that later.
Keith and Cheryl's closest neighbors across the water from the island were the Brown family. 61-year-old Michael Watson Brown and his wife, Manchitaha, a.k.a. Nan, she was from Thailand, and their 18-year-old son, Watson Brown. Michael and Nan Brown were not new neighbors. They had purchased this parcel of land in April of 2003. It expanded about 45 acres and was located along the coast on the mainland in the Cachiro area of Bocas del Toro. In May 2003, the Browns started a corporation called Latitude 9.10 Incorporated. Their property was purchased using this company. In April of 2005, the Browns were issued certification to become agricultural producers where they began to farm.
And this was legit agricultural people, not the kind of agriculture everybody just started thinking about.
It was in 2007 when the Browns seemingly packed up their things and just disappeared. In a community where people come and go, nobody thought much of their disappearance. Few people even knew the Browns, so nobody really made a fuss about it.
Yeah, because this is a place where a lot of expats come to go hide out, and then they take off, come back, disappear. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of turnover in the town. Although the Browns had been there for quite some time, it still kind of went unnoticed. Now, it wasn't too long before Keith and Cheryl met the new owners of the Browns' home and their property and the company. So it was a couple known as William Wild Bill Adolfo Cortez and his wife Jana Shana Cortez, or Gina Shana Cortez. You can say it either way. I'm trying to put that Spanish flair onto it.
I'd pronounce it Jenna Sienna Cortez.
Okay, let's do that then.
I wonder if we say it wrong, if Wild Bill Cortez will send us a message on Reddit to correct us.
Oh, like our last one?
Like, what's his fucking face. What's his name?
Oh,
Vernon Fox. Yes.
Yes. On our Sims case, we know that the guy we were talking about was listening because he sent us a correction. Did we talk about that?
I think I posted on social media about it, but
he corrected us, so he was listening.
Apparently, we were saying Charlie LaJoy's name wrong.
I told you I was right, but you know what? You said you were right, and I didn't want to argue.
Okay, keep going.
Anyway, the couple known as William Wild Bill Adolfo Cortez, because you got to have as many names as possible, and his wife Jenna Sienna Cortez, as Lauren would say. Now, Wild Bill Cortez said he was from Mexico and that his father is some kind of wealthy Mexican. That's just what he told everyone. And Cortez told everyone that the Browns had sold them the property and they just left the country. They quickly renamed it. They started calling it Hacienda Cortez because it's what you do. They also opened a bar named, I think it's called the Jolly Roger Social Club. At least that's what I could find. And it had a sign bearing the skull and crossbones right on the face of it. Now, quote, Cheryl and I had been on friendly terms with the Cortezes and had entertained the Cortezes on several occasions. This man was my neighbor. He was in my house for dinner with his wife. We knew them for 2.5 years. It was just Wild Bill and his wife, Keith Worley told ABC News.
Another one of Cher's neighbors was an American-born citizen, Bo Barry Eisler, who went by the name of Bo Yancey. Bo was a former art gallery owner and kung fu expert from New Mexico.
Yo!
Bo had moved to Bocas del Toro in 2004, where he formed a company called Iguana Limited Corporation. He too used his company to purchase his property and build his house. The lot was roughly 2.5 acres, where he designed his dream home. He also created a private interest foundation called Fundación El Hogar de la Iguana.
Fundación El Hogar de la Iguana.
He was a collector and dealer of Native American artifacts and peppered his home with many valuable items. Bo had several close friends among the community and was very well liked and respected, but he kept to himself and was described to be a very private person. He was not a party animal, didn't care for alcohol, and did not frequent any of the party scenes in the area.
Yeah, sadly, in October of 2009, Keith and Cheryl had separated, but they kind of remained in contact. They remained close friends, and Cheryl really kept in regular contact with Keith, as she would text him quite often, and it was said that sometimes even several times a day, and this just went on and on every single day. So around this time, Bo put the word out that he was putting his property up for sale and was looking to return to the United States. He was hopeful to return to live with his friend in Mississippi. Bo soon begins to tell several people that Wild Bill Cortez had expressed an interest in purchasing his property and that he plans to meet with Mr. Cortez to see if they can work out a deal. Bo even speaks with his best friend back in Mississippi on the phone and tells him that he's very hopeful that he might be able to sell his property quickly so he can head home and hopefully be there to spend Christmas holidays with his friend there in Mississippi. So, of course, his friend probably pretty happy and excited about that. So, and he's excited because obviously you put your property up for sale. You want it to go as quickly as possible. So he also says that the person who is interested in buying supposedly is very wealthy and has a lot of cash because that's the persona that Wild Bill has put forth. So later, Bo calls his friend back and tells him, that Bill Cortez offered me to buy my property, but he only wanted to give me $180,000. And then he immediately rejected the offer and was offended and pissed off by the low ball price. He said, I have no intention of selling to Wild Bill for that price. This would be the last conversation Bo would ever have with his friends and family back in the United States.
On November 30th of 2009, a groundskeeper who had been contracted by Bo to help him paint his house arrives to get to work. Instead of finding his boss, Bo, at the house, he finds Wild Bill Cortez. He's greeted by Cortez yelling out to him, "Who the hell are you and why are you here?" He begins explaining that he had been contracted to paint the house, and Cortez informs him that Bo's gone, I bought this house, it's mine now, so get the hell out. And the groundskeeper did just that, and he got the hell out.
Yeah, if you look on I'm sure Lauren's going to post a picture or check it out or Google, whatever you want to do. This guy's a pretty scary looking dude, so I can understand why the guy would haul ass.
So Wild Bill and Jenna Cortez tell everyone that they had paid Bo Eisler cash for his property, that he left abruptly, and they had no idea where he was. Another neighbor, a friend of Cheryl's, is Sandy Hodge, who moved to the area in 2005 and lived next door to Bo Eisler. She said of the situation, "The Cortezes told me that Bo had left suddenly and sold them his property at a reduced price. People were surprised, but mostly by the price. That struck me as very odd. It was the talk of the town. I said, God, if I would have known he was going to give that house away, I would have bought it." On December 9th of 2009, Bill and Jenna Cortez hire a lawyer and file documents taking over Bo Yancey Eisler's property and companies.
Okay, now getting into the thick of things here. Bill and Jenna were known to throw parties on Isla Cochero at their bar, and a group of American expatriates who would socialize at these weekly parties became regular attendees, and Cheryl Hughes, who we spoke of earlier obviously, eventually became one of the attendees. Now, on March 20th of 2010, after one of these parties, as Cheryl was getting into a boat with her friend to go home, Wild Bill tells Cheryl that he wanted to speak with her. He became rude to Cheryl's friend, telling her that what he wants to speak to Cheryl about is private. It's private business. It's none of your business. So Cheryl's friend left the two alone and went home. And this is the last time 54-year-old Cheryl Hughes is seen by any of her neighbors and friends. Now, who is Wild Bill Cortez?
His real name is William Dotham Holbert. He was born September 12, 1979, in a good Christian home. In his hometown of Hendersonville, a western North Carolina mountain town, he attended all 3 divisions of school. He even went on to play a variety of high school sports. After graduation, he married his high school sweetheart, and they later had 3 children by the age of 22. Holbert started several small businesses, including a landscaping business, and by outward appearances was a young, hard-working family man on his way up. Once his landscaping business began failing, he became involved in several other ventures, including a pool hall and a gym called the Body Shop that had several local branches. It was at the Body Shop that Holbert began an affair with an employee named Laura Michelle Reese, whom he set up with an apartment. Holbert's wife soon discovered this affair and filed for divorce. Holbert and Reese moved on, with Holbert opening a white supremacist bookstore in Forest City, North Carolina, called Southern National Patriots. He sold stickers, bandanas, and swastikas and stood on the street with a megaphone to encourage town folks to attend meetings, handing out flyers titled Southerners, a Call to Action.
So basically a real stand-up guy.
Before escaping out of the U.S., Holbert had been wanted for selling a $200,000 North Carolina home that he did not own and stealing a car which he then sold.
Now, Holbert and Reese went on the run as Holbert committed more crimes, including stealing more cars and assaulting a state trooper. They even had their picture on TV's America's Most Wanted and realized they were no longer safe hiding anywhere in America. So the couple left the U.S. in early of 2006, most likely on a cruise docking in Costa Rica, where they began living under the alias surname Cortez. And a cruise makes sense because that's an easier way to get out of the country as opposed to airline.
Yeah.
You try to fly out of here, man, they, especially nowadays, and I guess even in 2006, after 9/11, it made it really tough to get on a plane and just get out. I mean, hell, you can't even fly. We're in South Florida, we can't even fly to Orlando without going through all kinds of checks and shoes and shit. So now, on their trip to Costa Rica, they met an American lawyer named Jeffrey Allen Klein, who had fled the U.S. with his ex-wife's savings to avoid some massive legal battle. Now, the Cortezes and Mr. Klein began to share a home in Costa Rica.
They stayed in Costa Rica until 2007 when, while visiting the Panamanian city of Volcan around Thanksgiving 2007, Holbert, a.k.a. Wild Bill, answered an ad from a man in a town of Bocas del Toro advertising a 3-story house for sale in the Darklands Peninsula. The man who placed the ad was Michael Brown, the neighbor of Cheryl Hughes. Now, let's get back to Cheryl. So Cheryl's family began to become concerned when they were not able to contact her and had not spoken to her, which was very odd. Cheryl was deeply loved and admired by her friends and family back in the U.S. She had always kept in constant contact with them, so her disappearance would be very pivotal to Wild Bill's reign.
Yeah, as soon as her calls and emails stopped, relatives say they started inquiring about her whereabouts and prodding local officials to investigate. Now, Mary Whittemer, Mary Whittemire, Cheryl's aunt, spoke to Wild Bill directly. And over the course of 3 phone conversations, he told Whittemire he didn't know what had happened to Cheryl. He said the two had completed a business transaction with her selling her property and possessions to him before skipping town. Hobart also told Whittemire that Hughes had instructed loved ones to send him money and her personal possessions via air cargo. He even told Whittemire that she was welcome to come to Panama and look for Hughes if she wanted, but added, "She's not here." So now as months go by, with no word from Hughes, her friends and relatives grow increasingly worried, which makes sense. I mean, they start to panic a little bit, I guess. I mean, you don't hear from someone who you hear from all the time. Now, I can understand if you go a couple days without hearing from somebody, but if it progresses over a month or a couple weeks, then yeah, I can understand why you get worried.
In July of 2010, Keith Worley, separated from Hughes since October, and others organized a meeting with the Panamanian authorities. They laid out the facts they knew. It was enough to persuade authorities to reclassify Hughes' disappearance from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation. In the meetings with Panama's Attorney General and prosecutor, Whittemire described her conversations with Wild Bill. She also explained that Cheryl would never drop everything and disappear without notice. They also told authorities Hughes never placed her customary call to her father on his birthday and would not have sent a strange mass text message to that friends received after her disappearance. It was believed that Wild Bill had sent out this mass text from Cheryl's phone explaining how she was okay.
So he's got her phone, obviously, and he sends out a mass text saying, "Hey, don't worry about me. I'm cool. It's all good. No worries." I mean, and to everyone. So now, her home was left untouched with no apparent paperwork detailing any transaction with Hobart. Property rights. The process for buying a home in Panama is different than in the U.S. One method called for a shell corporation to be formed that issued bearer share certificates to sell your home. Therefore, no lawyer was required on the spot. As long as you had certificates and the corporate paperwork, you could sell direct because whoever physically had possession of the paperwork was legally the home's owner. Now, after questioning around the islands, authorities realized that Cortez had made statements about his taking over the property to friends and acquaintances of Bo Eisler, who had gone missing in November. Now Cheryl Hughes is missing. 1 week later, Panamanian police obtain a search warrant for the properties belonging to William Cortez, which used to belong to the Brown family. William, Wild Bill, and his wife, Jenna Cortez, hear about this and are long gone.
As authorities began to search, remember Cheryl's Doberman named Jackie? He would run to the police and would bark and whine to get their attention and ensure they were listening to him. It was obvious that he wanted to show them something important. According to journalist Dawn Winter, Jackie would run down to them, bark and whine, then run back into the woods behind the house. About 340 meters behind the house to the northwest, there was a pit used to bury trash and rubbish. Just like something out of a Hollywood movie script, Jackie would run down, bark and whine, make sure the investigators were following her, and then run back into the jungle. Eventually, the investigators followed Jackie to an area where there was a garbage pit. Jackie laid down next to a mound of dirt that was there, crying and whining, still refusing to leave Cher's side. Investigators immediately started digging at that exact spot, and they quickly discovered Cher's remains buried in the pit, wrapped in a blue plastic tarp. If it wasn't for Jackie, who knows how long it would have taken them to find the remains of Cheryl Hughes. In addition, the human remains, strongly suspected to be those of Bo Eisler, were also discovered close by.
And it was later determined that Bo Eisler's friends had filed a missing persons report previously, but not much had ever surfaced from it. So they called it in and let authorities know, hey, this guy's missing, but the authorities were like, yeah, because they weren't as persistent.
And then we find out that Michael Brown was actually Michael Francis Salem from North Miami Beach. He was a large drug trafficker from the 70s and 80s, and he escaped from a Florida corrections facility. He'd been convicted for kidnapping a law enforcement officer and using an officer's gun in a kidnapping. As a young man, Michael Brown, aka Salem, had a long criminal record. He was charged with burglary and grand larceny in Florida in 1961 and again in 1964. The following year, he resisted arrest, grand larceny again in 1967, then fugitive flight escapee in 1968. Now, all of this was in Florida, of course.
Florida man.
There was a count of armed robbery in Atlanta, Georgia, the same year, and in 1969, also in Atlanta, robbery by use of a weapon. In the 1970s, there were multiple counts of possession of illegal drugs, 2 escapes from the custody of the Miami-Dade Police Department, and 1 count each of kidnapping and attempted homicide. In 1988, there were 2 counts of importing narcotics, LSD and cocaine, this time in Darwin, Australia.
He had moved down under.
Because Brown had himself been a fugitive from the law, none of his family wanted to involve the law when he became missing for fear of giving up his identity.
Well, that makes sense because they all knew who he was. They probably all knew that he moved to Panama, and he was just trying to get the hell out of Dodge to hide from whether it be a cartel, maybe he told on, owed money to, cops, whatever it may be. Although it sounds like he wasn't very friendly with the cops, so it makes sense to haul ass and just go down there and hide. So why, if I knew someone that did that and they started asking me, I don't know who the hell he is, I would never report him missing. So now, as for Cheryl Hughes, there were too many people who loved her and were looking for her, said Dwayne Cooney, a childhood friend of Cheryl's. That's pretty much what ended his string of terror.
Talking about Wild Bill.
Exactly. Now, after fleeing Bocas in early June 2010 and eventually crossing the border into Costa Rica, Wild Bill and Reese, who, a.k.a. Jenna, had planned to lay low. However, their faces were all over the local television and newspapers. In the middle of July, the couple set up in a resort town about an hour out of San Jose and rented a cabin. But the owners of the cabins recognized them and called the police. Now, Holbert and Reese had barely escaped, and the manhunt was full on. Interpol had been alerted and got involved, and the FBI were also involved in the chase. The couple decided to switch countries again. Part of Costa Rica's border with Nicaragua to the north is the San Juan River. And on July 26th of that year, Holbert and Reese stole a powerboat on the Costa Rican bank by dumping its owner into the water and headed for Nicaragua. Apparently this guy don't give a shit. So, however, they were spotted by a group of Nicaraguan soldiers who knew that the pair were trying to enter the country illegally. Now, confronted by a line of machine guns, Holbert and Reese surrendered. When questioned by the Nicaraguan authorities, Holbert and Reese again tried to change their identities and claimed to be Dutch nationals. They were dressed in t-shirts, shorts, pants, flip-flops. They were trying real hard to appear to be tourists, but obviously, it didn't really work. They were quickly handcuffed and taken away to a nearby police station, and that was the end of the line for Holbert and Reese.
On July 29, 2010, William Dothan Holbert and Laura Michelle Reese were deported from Nicaragua and flown into Panama City. Reese emerged first from the plane and descended the short steps onto the runway, slowly and unsure. She was then ushered to a waiting police car, looking down the whole time and trembling.
Should be.
Holbert came out next and glanced over at a couple of photographers who called out his name. He then held his head high, back straight, nose pointed to the sky as he too was taken away. His body language was arrogant, and he was said to be seen with a smile. In the following days, authorities were all amazed to see how the prisoner behaved. He waved and smiled at the cameras as if he were a rock star.
Dick.
Now, first there was the question of who exactly this man was. Holbert was announced as William Adolfo Cortez, but when asked for confirmation of his name and other personal details, he gave the impression that he wanted to level with the investigators. My name is William Dothan Holbert. I'm 30 years old. I got married in Costa Rica in 2006 near the city of San Jose, but I don't remember what the place was called exactly. I was born on September 12, 1979 in Hendersonville, North Carolina in the United States. Holbert gave the names of his mother and father and his U.S. Social Security number. He said he earned a living from farming. He then told investigators that he and Reese both entered Panama illegally in 2007 via a little-used border crossing close to Rio Sereno. He had hopped on a bus and went to David, bought an SUV, and then went back to the border to fetch Reese. This was as easy as walking along a track. It was in the middle of the night, and there was no one around. The year's lease on the house in David cost him $3,200. He was carrying $50,000 in cash, which were the spoils of a fraud that he had committed in the United States. Tiring of David, the couple went to Chiquiri's Highlands. That's when they saw Michael Brown's ad on Craigslist and called him. We arranged that he would pick me up in Chiquiri Grande, a small port southeast of Darklands, so that I could visit the property. I found out that this man had been a drug trafficker in the past. He told me this himself. I came to the conclusion that he was a desperate man, like I was. My first thought had been to rob him because he told me that he had a lot of money, but I changed my mind when I saw his property, which was in a remote, beautiful place, and that was when I decided to kill him and his family too.
Now, Holbert hatched a plan on the third day of his stay with the Browns. He asked Michael Brown to show him a well that was at the rear of the house. When they got to the well, Holbert shot Michael Brown with a single bullet to the head. After Holbert shot Michael Brown, he went back to the house. Then I said to his son, whose name I can't remember, that his father wanted him to bring a shovel and help him out. I told him I would go with him to his father. The young man was about 18 years old. I took him near to where his father was, and I shot him in the same place and also in the back of the neck. I then returned to the house, and Brown's wife was in the garden, working and bent over. I shot her in the same way that I had shot the father and son. To make sure they were all dead, Holbert shot Michael Brown, his wife, Nan, and their son, Watson, in the neck a second time. The Browns kept a pickup truck on the farm, and Holbert threw their bodies into the back of it. Holbert then drove to the brush behind the house. He stopped and dug 2 shallow graves. He put Nan and Watson in one hole and Michael Brown in another.
In November of 2009, Holbert said that he invited Bo Eisler to his house so that he could meet with Holbert's attorney. But the story about the attorney was a lie. I went in with my motorboat to Bo's house in Big Creek to fetch him. And on the way from there to my house, when we were on the boat out in the lagoon, I shot him in the neck. I used a .38 caliber revolver. Of course, Eisler was carrying the bearer shares of his shell corporation. In anticipation, Holbert had instructed his workers to dig a hole in a small clearing in the bush about 300 yards behind Brown's house. I threw Bo's body into the hole and covered it with a layer of dirt. On top of this, I threw in household garbage. The following day, Holbert asked his workers to fill in the hole with more dirt. Reese wasn't in the house when Bo Eisler was shot and buried, said Holbert, as she had gone off to Boquete to go shopping.
Holbert said on the night that he killed Hughes, I think my wife was staying at Bo's house, or maybe she was elsewhere, as we were going through some problems in our marriage. Holbert killed Hughes execution style and drove in the Browns' old pickup truck to a new hole he'd instructed his workers to dig. Holbert covered Hughes' body in a blue tarp and tossed it into the hole. He covered it with a layer of dirt, just as he had done with Bo Eisler's corpse, then some household garbage. Subsequently, Holbert asked his workers to fill in the hole with more dirt. Holbert dispatched the large gray plastic cooler of the type you can wheel around on a plane to Panama City. The cooler contained some of Hughes' clothes and personal belongings. I did this to cover my tracks.
Now, with his account of the Bocas del Toro murders explained to authorities, Holbert had something to say about Laura Michelle Reese. My wife is innocent of all these crimes and didn't have any knowledge of the crimes I committed. I have always acted alone, as is my habit. If there is any justice in the world, she will be released. In May of 2012, the couple were given 3 separate trials for 5 murders committed in Bocas del Toro, Panama. Holbert attempted to protect Reese from being charged, claiming he was completely responsible for the murders, yet both were convicted and sentenced to prison. William Wild Bill Holbert received 46 years, and Laura Michelle Reese received 30 years. After his conviction, Holbert admitted to the murder of Jeffrey Klein, the lawyer that they had lived with in Costa Rica, and admitted to burying him behind the rental property he owned. Panamanian authorities also tried to connect them to the murders of several locals.
Now, he was willing to tell of everything else, so they think he is actually behind a lot of other killings there. But he's scared to admit to killing any locals that are there because he has to stay at a local prison, and he's afraid that there will be some backlash if they find out that he was killing locals there in Panama, and he's got to start living with the locals because they're all so close together that they might be related or just friends and family. So he didn't want to get too involved in that. And that was one of the reasons he would have been able to get his sentence reduced in half if he had cooperated fully. But he decided to kind of mix his story up. So some were true, some were not. So he kind of screwed himself. If he had just been 100% honest, he would have actually gotten 23 years instead of 46. But well, he's not that bright to begin with. So now, in March, this I see just as karma. Just it's not much, but little by little. So in March of 2013, Holbert filed for divorce from his wife, Laura Michelle Reese, after learning she was cheating on him with another detainee. So Laura met her lover.
Was the other detainee a male or a female?
A male, because he said that he wanted to...
How could she be cheating on him while she was in prison?
Well, that's because Holbert, I guess in Panama, it allows you to have conjugal visits. So once a month, he was able to see his wife. So let's say he went in the middle of the month. Well, Mr. So-and-so, who's another detainee, was going to see his wife at a different time of the month. Now, Holbert had asked the prison authorities to suspend his conjugal visits, and he would, well, let me go back to this other part. So he apparently she had met another person and was having sex with another person, another detainee, and she had met her lover in the women's prison in Los Algaros, Chiquiro, when he was performing work in the prison. So there's your answer to your question. So she met while this guy was coming in doing work in the prison. So Holbert had said, "Hey, I don't want any more conjugal visits. I don't want to see my wife anymore. I'm done with this." And so he filed for divorce. So now this douchebag fraud claims to be a man of God now, and even has his own webpage to tell us all about it. It's something Brother Bill or something like that. So that's pretty much it. That kind of sums up the story of Wild Bill Cortez and 3, 4, 5 unfortunate victims. Well, 6 if you count the lawyer, Mr. Klein. You know, sad because some of these victims were criminals themselves.
Pretty messed up.
But the crimes they committed wouldn't be crimes that justify getting murdered. You know, so
I don't really think any crime justifies being murdered.
I'd agree with you on that, but I'm just saying. So anyway, so that's the kind of shit that happens in Panama. So it's not just Florida or the United States where bad shit happens. Like I said before, true crime has no nationality because that shit happens everywhere.
Oh, yes.
But sadly, these were Americans committing murder in a place where there was a shitload of Americans. So, but this particular part of Panama really is beautiful. And I mean, if you can check it out. It's really a beautiful area. And there are a shitload of Americans there.
Yeah.
Shitload. So, anyway, our first vacation dinner.
Thanks for listening to our first episode.
A vacation edition.
Vacation edition.
Yeah.
Patreons.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for subscribing and your support. It really means a lot to us.
Yep. That helps. It's wonderful. I love it. You know what it does? It kind of helps justify doing all this, you know? I mean, I have such a good time doing it, like doing this research. I always enjoy the research, but like when you said, it's all you this time, I'm like, fuck. I think I did pretty good.
Yeah.
So if you're a Patreon subscriber and you just listen to this episode,
give us some feedback.
Yeah, you can...
constructive criticism.
Exactly.
And praise.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's pretty much it for tonight. So please make sure to, hit us up and follow us on our social media.
At Paradise After Dark Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and at Paradise Dark 239 on Twitter.
And if you haven't yet, make sure you hit us up on our Etsy store. You can access it through our webpage or through Etsy.
And for our Patreon subscribers, use promo code PAD Patreon for a 15% off discount.
How much?
15%.
Can I use that promo code?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I can't because I don't subscribe to Patreon. Damn it.
Yeah.
So.
Ken can't. He doesn't subscribe to Patreon, so he can't even see any of the stuff I post.
Here's the best part. Babe, what's our login for Patreon? No. Babe, just tell me the login. No. I just want to know. You know what? You
You
subscribe.
should subscribe to our Patreon.
If you don't subscribe, your ass has to wait like everybody else. And you don't get access to all the cool stuff. You got to help make it. You just don't get access to it.
I'll give you access to this episode only because you wrote the whole thing.
I did.
But I'll be basically the one producing and editing.
But let's be honest. It's not like you didn't look it up and research some stuff.
I really didn't.
You did it?
No.
Oh,
I told you I did, but I lied.
What the? Oh, my God. I'm so glad this is Patreon.
I'm sorry that I'm working on our regularly scheduled episodes, plus our little off-the-topic things, plus me. Working.
Oh, I'm Lauren. I'm the greatest.
Plus napping.
Oh, I do all the work. Kid does nothing.
Okay. Everybody have a wonderful week, month. I think we'll be back. We have 6 Patreon subscribers, so we're only doing 1 bonus episode a month. Once we get to 10, we'll start doing 2. So tell your friends. Yeah. Subscribe on Patreon. Make sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts because that really helps boosts our visibility on Apple Podcasts and other platforms. And thanks for listening
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark.